All right. So when we look into the structure of DNA, there are 4 nitrogen bases. And just to review, this is our DNA structure. The 5-carbon sugar is this shape right here, okay? Then you have the phosphate, and this is where we're talking about, right here. These nitrogen bases, and DNA has 4 that are associated with it. And we have separated them into 2 things, purine and pyrimidines. That's going to be important in a minute when we talk about base pairing rules. But the purines are these guys up here. And if you look, they're a little bit bigger, and we'll talk about how this plays into function here in a minute. And then you have the pyrimidine, cytosine, and thymine. So again, these 2 are smaller. But for now, you just need to know there's 2 kinds, purine and pyrimidines. And in our models, these bases are going to be represented by either a blue rectangle thing or a green rectangle, okay? Let's make the blue purines right here, okay? And so this guy has a purine base, and this one has a pyrimidine, okay? And we're just going to color code it to make our life easier. Okay, so the backbone of DNA is made up, and this is always a little confusing, of a 5-carbon sugar and phosphates. Now, when we talk about the backbone, we're talking about those the sides of the ladder. So what they're talking about, and it gets kind of interesting when we start to do this stuff, is that when we make DNA and we make one side of DNA, it actually comes together like, let's see if I can make this guy come together. This 5-carbon sugar is going to bond, this phosphate is going to bond to this 5-carbon sugar. It ends up making it, so that this Play-Doh's falling apart, so that the bases end up going in the center. And these guys are on the outside. The 5-carbon sugar and the phosphates all make the rungs of the ladder. And this is hard to show. I like to do a cool demo, but my Play-Doh is kind of falling apart. So I might have to just move the camera so that I can keep the Play-Doh on the ground. But this shows you it again. So this would be 1 nucleic acid. And you're going to see this picture in your worksheet. Right here is 1 nucleic acid. Everyone see where I'm circling. Okay, there's the 5-carbon sugar, there's the phosphate, and there's the base. Okay, here's another nucleic acid. And if you look, here's the phosphate and here's the 5-carbon sugar. DNA bonds on the sides between 1 phosphate and the 5-carbon sugar. We call this a phosphodiester bond. In the middle are the bases, and they sit in the middle, okay? The covalent bonds, you need to know this, it's covalent bonds that hold the backbone together, okay? And they're found between the phosphate and the 5-carbon sugar. Again, this is 1 DNA nucleotide. This is 1 DNA nucleotide. So the bases are left kind of floating in the middle. This bond is a very, very strong bond, okay? Now we haven't gotten, and I apologize because this is on Google Slides, the formatting gets funny, but basically these handrails are made up, but we haven't got to the second rung. What I just showed you was the first side of the ladder. What happens is in the middle, we have the bases pairing together, okay? So again, you have a 5-carbon sugar, and then you have the phosphate group sticking out, and then it bonds to, and I think I'm just going to show you this on the thing here. So here we have a 5-carbon sugar with a base, right? And I'm sorry, I've been gardening. My hands are kind of dirty, but okay, so here's our 5-carbon sugar, here's the base, and here's the phosphate, okay? Now, here we have another 5-carbon sugar, right? And my Toothpicks are a little short. And it bonds. This is the phosphodiester bond right here. And then connected over here is his base. Okay? And now we are just building one side of the ladder. Okay? This phosphate bonds to this 5-carbon sugar. Here's its new phosphate. And here, if you look, you have the nitrogen bases in the middle. This bond right here is the phosphodiester bond. Phosphodiester bond. Okay? Now, what's interesting is how do we get the next side of the ladder? Well, it's the reverse. Okay? So we end up with, I have to flip this guy though, where we have, here's his base, okay, and these two bases will bond in the center, and that's how we end up with the rungs of the ladder. And I'm just gonna take this guy off, so we've got a molecule over here I ran out of. So again, this guy's gonna bond here, and we've got to flip him so he can bond and the base can be in the middle. And then we have the 5-carbon sugar. So here's your phosphodiester bond for the backbone. And right here, we have the nucleotide bases, the nitrogen bases bonding in the middle. So this is one side of the DNA, right here. This is one side of, the DNA molecule. So this is one side of the ladder, and this would be one side of the ladder. And then in the middle are the nucleotide bases, okay? I hope that helps. We're going to talk about bonding rules on the next video.